Hello, I'm Sarah. This is Hardcover Hearts, and welcome to my European haul video. So this video is, I have all of the books that I have purchased from Europe behind me and in front of me. And I really want to take the time to talk through them. I actually did this video yesterday and it was endless. It was so long and it was giving me such heart palpitations that I decided not even to try to edit it, to come back and try again. So that's what we're doing today on this gorgeous, gorgeous Saturday morning. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to film the entire thing today, but I'm actually going to edit and upload in chunks. I think that gives me the opportunity to talk with enough detail about each book so that you know a little bit about it and why I chose it and where I got it from. But also you're not overwhelmed and inundated. So I hope that works for you. So let's see, this video is going to focus on two places, LA and Italy. LA is not in Europe, you say. I know this. So what happened is the week before we went to Europe, it was my mother-in-law's birthday. And so we took a quick flight down to LA and spent the time with her. Now, I am very, very blessed that my mother-in-law is also a reader. So one of the most delightful things that we like to do when we're in LA is go to bookstores. We went to the Iliad. The Iliad is just this magnificent used bookstore. It's huge, and I find that LA gets a different type of reader or a different type of book selection than I get here in San Francisco in the used bookstores. And I'm not really sure why. I think it's because it's such a place for people from Europe to go to, even though San Francisco is as well. But I think there's just a lot of people coming and going. So I end up often finding things that I otherwise would have to go to Europe to find. And let me show you and talk you through that. And then I'll also show you what I bought in Florence and Venice. So with that preamble, let's jump right into it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is a book that I found at the Iliad. This is Ivy Compton-Burnett, The Present and the Past. Now, I have another Ivy Compton-Burnett that I have not yet read, Parents and Children. Apparently, what I have learned about her is that she really likes the blank and blank title. She has pastors and masters, brothers and sisters, men and wives, a family and a fortune. So that's kind of her typical title. She has a very, very interesting backstory. She was one of 12 children and kind of grew up in poverty, but then ended up with some money. She got a degree in the classics in 1902, which is very unusual, and had many female companions. So I think we can infer that she was probably a lesbian, and wrote about family, about domestic life, about large households, having come from one of them herself. And she writes generally in the Edwardians kind of era. That's her milieu. Now, this book in particular has a divorced woman trying to insert herself back into his remarried ex-husband's life with disastrous consequences. I think it sounds like an interesting setup. I can imagine what it would look like now. I'm really curious to see what it would look like in the Edwardian kind of society and study manners, kind of comedy of manners type of setup. I'm not sure if this is going to be comic or if it's going to be tragic because I haven't yet read any of her work. So, but from the setup, it sounds very good to me. So I was excited to get this. Then I found a book that I already own, but I like this cover better. You will hear me say that a couple times. And this is from an author that I've read before and loved. This is Vita Sackville-West's The Edwardians. Speaking of Edwardian period, So I read All Passion Spent last year and was stunned at how much I loved it. So I have very high hopes for this. Although this is her first novel. This was done in 1930 and All Passion Spent was done in 1931. I am fascinated with Vita Sackville-West, not only because she was the lover of Virginia Woolf, despite the fact that they were both married to men. She also moved in and was the owner of Sissinghurst Castle, which I've seen photos of that looks amazing. It's in Kent. I do want to visit it sometime. Gorgeous gardens, very well known for its gardens, and also its library. So that is a good reason to visit Kent. So I have a very high hopes for this, and by getting this Virago Modern Classic, which I'm very excited to own, I will be jettisoning the other copy that I had and selling that for some credit at my local used bookstores. Then I found this really interesting cover. This is The Brandons by Angela Thirkell. So as you can see, there's kind of a theme with like these mid-century modern writers. I don't know if modern is the right word, but they were writing in the mid-century. They were writing between the wars, women writers. I'm very, very interested in that, those types of books. So Angela Thirkell, I think, is a lighter fare than the other two. I have another book of hers, High Rising. I have yet to read it, but it's supposed to be witty, light, frothy entertainment. This also, I think, it fits that bill. She also wrote Pomfret Towers, which is one of her more well-known books. So I don't know a ton about what it's about, so I'm going to read a little bit from the cover. Mrs. Brandon, the heroine, if there ever is one, is one of her most engaging creations. In spite of having a grown-up son and daughter, she cannot help attracting men of all ages who are apt to express their devotion by reading aloud to her, but never get as far as declaring their feelings because she never understands what they're saying. All right, I don't need to hear any more. That sounds like a perfect palate cleanser, really funny. I do love British comedy of manners. I think they're great. So I'm excited for that. Then I found this book, The Photograph by Penelope Lively. Now, I recently put in a request asking people for suggestions on that high, sophisticated, stylized type of writers, akin to Anita Bruckner, Elizabeth Bowen, Shirley Hazard, because I had recently read a Shirley Hazard book and it just immediately gave me those same vibes. And I just love that really erudite, beautiful, layered, rich writing. And so I was looking for more, and I just was sure that somebody knew other authors that I needed to read. And Penelope Lively was someone that I was told to read. Now, I already have one of her books. I have Moon Tiger, which won the first Booker Award, which was then called the Golden Booker Prize. So I have that. This is a much newer book. This is written and published in 2003, and it tells the tale of a man who is going through his dead wife's possessions in their home, and he stumbles upon a photograph of her holding hands, surreptitiously holding hands with a man that is known to him, very intimately known to him, among a group of people. And it's obvious that something was going on and he did not know about it, and it happened during the span of their marriage. And this sets him off on this quest to understand her. So I'm very happy to have this. And then I was delighted to find this. This is a novelist that I only heard of recently from the podcast Slightly Foxed. I'm a subscriber to their magazine. It's kind of a quarterly magazine that comes out, really well done, gorgeous. And I love their podcast. It is like grabbing a cup of tea on a Sunday morning and just listening in on friends talking about books and authors, and just really smart friends. It's so quaint, it's so charming. And I heard about this author and was fascinated with her life story. Apparently, she grew up moving around a lot. She was a lesbian, fairly out, wasn't hiding, ran in very high artistic and diplomatic circles, never really had money. And so because she was so smart and fun and witty, a lot of her friends paid for her life and her lifestyle for many years, as well as some of her lovers. So she sounded fascinating. And she wrote about lesbian love back in the day. And so I knew I was looking for and wanted to find some of her books, and I have struck out over and over again. I did order one from the UK a while ago, so imagine my delight when I found the other. So this is A Compass Error by Sybil Bedford. And the one that I had ordered was this gorgeous reissue. This has been reissued by Daunt Books. I just love their press, and it's so gorgeous. So this is the second volume. And in this one, we have apparently the same character, and this is kind of her coming of age in southern France in the 1930s. So please tell me that that does not sound completely divine. So really looking forward to reading this. But stay tuned. This is going to play a feature in a further later on segment. Spoilers of my own videos. Anyway, so yeah, happy to find this. Really great copy as well. It hadn't even been opened, so yay me. But the piece de résistance of this excursion was this Folio Society edition of A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr. I know. I didn't even know that Folio Society edition had printed this book, but how delightful is this? I just love the print. I'm not sure if you could see, but she's talking to him. The minister's wife is talking to him, and she has her hand on her throat. Very, very flirty. I love this book. I've read it before. I think it's absolutely delightful. This has not even been cracked open. I was so happy to get this, and it was only $7. Yay me! So that was the delightful LA trip that we took and the bevy of riches that I found there. Now we're going to move on to Italy. So I didn't find a ton of things in Italy, but what I think I found, I'm quite happy with. On our first stop, which was Florence, my very kind of almost as soon as it opens, my favorite place to go to is this little shop called the Paperback Exchange. It's very close to the Duomo, in a little back side street. Look it up. It's really great. They're a English bookstore, and they have used and new, and they also have some books in Italian. I really wish my Italian was good enough for me to spend the money to try to get an Italian book, but I'm way novice there. Though I was able to use my Italian Duolingo learning and was able to get us around. I was able to order, so I was able to be functional, but that's different than being literate in the language and reading a book that you want to read in its language. So I aspire, and one day will be reading the Elena Ferranti series in Italian. That's one of my goals. So I stayed away from the Italian books and really focused on English translated fiction. The first one, though, is not Italian, but I found it at that bookstore. And it is The Mad Woman's Ball And this is written by Victoria Maas, and it is translated from the French by Frank Winn. This is set in 1885 Paris, and the main location is a mental asylum. This rotates in perspectives. We have a few different people telling their stories. One of the main ones is Genevieve, and she is a nurse, kind of head of the ward, and assistant to the doctor who takes care of the women here at this ward. The feeling is that he has brought and modernized and brought a lot of new innovation, and that he's brilliant. One time a year, they invite the elite members of society to come to a ball hosted by the asylum, and the women in the asylum, because it's all women at this asylum, are able to dress up in fancy clothes and have a night of magic for themselves. It also allows the elite and sophisticates to have this titillating experience that they'll talk about for the rest of the year. For the women who are stuck there, it gives them hope. It gives them something to aspire and look forward to, and it becomes the highlight of their year. And it's escapism for them. I've already read this. Can look for it in my week of reading wrap-up, but suffice to say that I was really happy to find a new copy of this, and it was really a delightful read, something to enjoy and prepare for going to Paris. Then we went on a day trip to Venice, and the entire purpose was to go to the Peggy Guggenheim Palazzo that she also leverages as a museum, did in her lifetime, and now is consecrated as a museum. It's someplace I've wanted to go for so many years. I've been to Venice once, but did not get the opportunity then. So this was one of those I knew I was going to do. My husband has never been to Venice, so I also wanted to share Venice's magic with him. So we hopped off on a day trip, and we went to the museum. Now, it was the Venice Biennial art exhibit, and so there's all this art happening all over town. And Peggy Guggenheim's exhibit had been taken down, and in place was a special exhibit on Surrealism. And Peggy Guggenheim had a relationship with modernists as well as surrealists. So it was interesting to see that exhibit, but it meant that I didn't see her existing standing exhibit. So I purchased this book, the Peggy Guggenheim Collection. So this is of her regular collection. And let me show you the back because it's so beautiful. Just stunning. Now that is her Palazzo. And this is a heavy, heavy book because it has really beautiful quality, museum quality paper. So it's archival paper, very heavy. So this is one of the ones that I sent back in the box because this weighs a ton. Then I also found this book. This is The Militant Muse, Love, War, and the Women of Surrealism by Whitney Chadwick. I love that cover. I'll try to get the glare out of there. So I picked this up because I think it is an interesting, I hope, exploration of a topic that I was first introduced in by this book that if you follow my channel, you've heard me bang on about this for ages. This is one of my favorite books about artists, about history of art movements, about women artists, and this is 9th Street Women. Lee Krasner, Elaine de Kooning, Grace Hardigan, Joan Mitchell, and Helen Frankenthaler, 5 Painters and the Movement That Changed Modern Art by Mary Gabriel. This is a phenomenal book about how those women were integral to the establishment of American abstract modern art. They, along with their husbands and friends and community, were central, were active, participated. They propelled the art movement forward. And at a time when when Peggy Guggenheim was helping artists from Europe escape and come to the United States because of the danger of Nazi Germany and being thrown in camps. The infiltration of the Surrealists really screwed up the dynamics because the Surrealists were so misogynist and sexist. They really kept women at a distance. Women were not part of their community, and they treated those women specifically pretty poorly. So this will be a very interesting read to see, does Whitney Chadwick agree with that assertion? Is she able to show a different light and any kind of new insights into how the Surrealists were with their muses and the other women artists that they surrounded themselves with? So really curious, and I could see this being one of my nonfiction November highlights. So fingers crossed. Okay, so that concludes LA and Italy. Next up is going to be my Paris one. So I hope you come back and enjoy that. But I do have a question. Have you read any of these? Have you enjoyed it? Based on these, are there any that you think that I would particularly like, that I should have on my radar for any future trips that I take to a used bookstore near me? That's it for me for now, but I thank you so much for watching and look forward to talking to you later. Bye.